Welcome to Classic Aransky. Let's answer some of your burning questions.
Text-to-speech. It's a robot voice. So at the end of last week's episode, I asked you guys to send your questions to me. In the meantime, since this is our 10th episode, I want to hear from you. I figured it was time that I answer what you guys wanted to know. And you guys sent in some great questions. But first, in my quest to build confidence, here's where you might have found me on the internet this week.
Mike Aransky.
Heyo!
So at center of the earth, that's Will Ferrell, but center of the creative universe, definitely Mike Aransky.
Classic Aransky's Mike Aransky.
Welcome to our 1-2 switch challenge brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. The rules are simple.
Yeah, that counts, right? Yeah, definitely check out that Pockets Full of Soup episode. It's a good one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you keep going with it, man.
No, I really
keep it up, keep it up.
shouldn't. That's going to be a new theme song. All right.
All right, let's get to the questions. Okay, let's check Twitter. All right, let's start with Bart Chicasa. Your thoughts on major studios considering offering new releases digitally earlier than usual? It seems that movie chains are in big trouble if this happens. You think theaters are going to be on their way out soon? Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly believe that this is a good move for the studios, and I'll tell you why. There are two very distinct audiences out there now. There are people who just like the experience of being home and just watching their television and their movies home there, and there are the people that really enjoy their theater experience. Being in a packed house on release week is awesome, I believe, being there and experience the movie together. If it's a comedy, everyone in the theater is roaring. If everyone's scared when it's a horror movie, that's an awesome experience to be there with a packed house of people to do it with. I also understand that side of the world also too, because I have a kid and it's hard sometimes to be able to go see a movie on release week. And so having that chance to see that on that week and I can't go see the theater, well, it's a trade-off. Certain kind of movies I'd like seeing in the theater, certain kind of movies I'd like seeing at home, but I'd like to have that option. And if it was on day one, yeah, that would be an awesome option to have. So I don't think it's going to kill the theater. I mean, you asked, you think theaters are going to be on their way out because of this? I do not think so. I think theater experience is going to be here to stay. They just need to find new ways to get people in the seats. And I think there are a lot of unique experiences to have when it comes to seeing movies in the theater. And honestly, I would be saddened if the theater experience never existed again. From Trevor Starkey. Oh, Trevor, I met him before. He's a good dude. He asked, if you could work as a DP for anyone, who would it be and why? Funny enough, my pursuits aren't to be a DP. It is actually to be a director, because you might think, you're like, wait a minute, you were the DP on Phobia, isn't that just where you want to keep moving with? It's not, actually. Funny enough, I did Phobia. I DP'd Phobia because my buddy Rory was really passionate about that film, and I wanted to support him the best I could. And I figured being a DP, you're the kind of the second in charge with the director at that point, and to push forward his vision of the film. For me, if I had a DP for a feature film, I guess I would want a DP under like my favorite directors were to be like, you know, Spielberg or Sam Raimi or the Coen brothers or whatever. But I mean, they have such great DPs now. I would feel like I would never be able to get to those guys' level. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it'd be, just because I would want to learn and work with them together. Yeah, I mean, as a DP, that isn't my pursuit at the end of it. I'd prefer to be directing at that point. All right, the next one's from Zach Stein. Oh, Zach, you used to work with me at IGN. Do you believe the theory that movies are a dying art as TV becomes a medium choice for young filmmakers? I believe it's amazing where television is right now. The fact that we are getting so much narrative and such good narrative television right now is kind of amazing. I never thought years ago we would see this, so it's fantastic, and it's great there's a lot of young filmmakers getting an opportunity to finally kind of define themselves in that medium. But I do believe that feature films are not going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, it's fascinating that a lot of younger filmmakers are also getting grabbed into the big studio tentpole films. It's a lot more to do with the fact that they're cheaper and they have a lot more, the studio has more control over them in that situation. But there's a lot of great movies out there, and the fact is that like television is kind of like it's like almost like 10, 12-hour movies, you know, like they're hour-long episodes based around a season. So they're trying to tell a very different message, and different kind of emotions are trying to be elicited out of that because they have so much more time to stretch and build and develop. Where I think in film, you have a smaller window of like a 2-hour window to really develop your characters and tell a major story. And I think that there's a lot of I believe that there's a lot more power in the fact that you go in hoping to experience something and you step out 2 hours later and hopefully it's elicit some kind of emotions out of you. And I think with film, I don't think that's going to die out anytime soon because there's so many different ways to tell a story. And I think that's the beauty of all this, is that we're now in a medium where there's so many different ways to tell an amazing story. You can tell a long story and stretch out and develop your characters. You can tell a small, intimate story and give only 2 hours and basically hope that you've owned your audience in that 2-hour window. So that's a great question. But yeah, I do think that there's a home for both. Okay, the next one's from Darren Brazil. Oh, I know Darren. That's creepy, Darren. That's my kid. That's really creepy. All right, the next one's from James Duggan. Hey, James. What movie do you secretly love and what movie do you secretly love that no one else seems to enjoy? And vice versa. Good question. One sec. Okay, so the movie I secretly love and nobody seemed to enjoy because no one went to see it at the theater was a movie called Brothers Bloom. I love this movie to death. This is a movie directed by Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson is, funny enough, now directing the next Star Wars movie. So I'm pretty excited about that, obviously. Brothers Bloom is just like an awesome con man movie that kind of came to the block, that came to the theater and then just disappeared off the face of the planet as soon as it got out there. But I've seen this movie, I have no joke, I have 3 copies of this movie. 3 copies. So I'm a real big fan of this film. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch this movie. It's awesome. I cannot recommend it enough. And vice versa, the movie that everyone seemed to love and that I seem to not like is a little movie called Jurassic World. Because I just did not like that movie at all. I thought it was quite bad. Okay, let's check out your questions in the comments underneath the video. We got one from Seth Edick. He says, hey Aransky, when do you know when an idea is done? Meaning it's more than a vague idea and something you actually pursue. Because you seem early in the writing process but are still starting to pitch. Thanks. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of just ideas across the table. And when do I get something to pursue? Well, it's when I see that there's potential in the idea, and I know that in my brain I'm going, this is something that can be done in a reasonable amount of budget, that it's something that I feel like it can be feasibly handled with the team that I have available to me. Because, trust me, I could shoot for the moon and come up with crazy superhero stories and whatnot, but for me, I've been making movies over the years, and it's always been about keeping it as minimal as possible, but seeing how an idea that it just gets you so excited that you're willing to give into that movie and that give all that time into it. Because one of the interesting things about it is, like, I tell everyone this, and you're like, you want to make a movie, you need to lock down a year of your life. Because basically, when you start developing a movie, you are going to start living this film at a certain point, because production is, especially if you don't have a lot of budget, it becomes very time-inducing, and you spend a lot of time with it in pre-production, because you need to be smart about it before you go into production, and then it's post-production. You know, like great example is Phobia, the last film that we made. We did that for on weekends for 6 months. 6 months of just production on weekends. And then it was, I believe, like a good solid year in just post. Possibly even more. And like, that's something you need to always factor in when you look at an idea. You go, well, this is a vague idea and this is the idea I want, because once I know it's the one I want, I know we're spending all our time on that project. You know, I'm very excited about Slasher. I think it's a really cool idea. I like the Last Day concept a lot too, but the Last Day concept is a little bit more of a bigger budget idea. Last Day is the one I pitched for Project Greenlight. Hence the reason why I pitched to that, because I know realistically I can do it under that budget constraint that they're giving to me. But the Slasher idea I can do smaller and still get that film out the way I want it to be, you know? So it's always that for me. It's always looking about how realistic is this movie when it comes to me actually making this film. The next one we got from Francesco Palsek. Sorry if I messed up your name. Hey Mike, do you find it more difficult coming up with the general idea or coming up with how to move the plot from A to B to C and so on? Any suggestions on how to move forward the plot more easily? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Interesting point. So for me, general idea usually is a good starting block. It literally, like, this last movie idea came from a random conversation we were having about Halloween content. And I was just randomly out of nowhere saying, you know what's interesting? I wonder whatever happens after the end of slasher movies. Like, it's just a random thing that popped in my head. And so that was the general idea. I'm like, what does happen after the end of a slasher movie? And then from that point, it was the A, B, C points I started coming up with vaguely just to have a good starting block from there. So A was like, what's that ending like? And then B was like, what's the next story from it? And what is the payout? And that's C, you know? That's the easiest way to suggest is when you're just is to come up with just tiny general ideas, super vague, you know, of just like something that you as a moviegoer that's my assumption. I'm a giant movie lover. And for me, I love nothing more than the idea of trying to bend rules in cinema. So if you can come up with an idea and you go, that's interesting, I ain't seen this before, I want to do this, you know, and then from that point on, just breaking those things down into what that actual movie could be is the next steps from there. That personally is the way I work it. It's different for other people, but it's an easy way to start moving. So general idea, and then go ABCs of just generic little moments you think will be, what is the start, what is the middle ground, and what's the payout at the end. That's the things that I highly suggest starting with. I got one from Rocket Adrift. Do you find it easier to write alone or with other people? I 100% believe you should write with friends or people that you believe or trust in their writing. It's an important thing it's great to come up with the idea solo, right? Like for me, note-taking, coming up with just little brainstorms that come out of nowhere, and getting those notes down are super important for me before I even start pursuing the next level of the script. I use a thing called Google Keep. You can find different kind of note-taking apps out there. Google Keep is great for me when it's 3 a.m. and all of a sudden I have an epiphany. Oh, this is a great idea for a movie. Okay, write that down, go to bed. For me, you never know when an idea pops up in your head, and you just need to get those little tiny ideas down. Write little blurbs, literally like a little elevator pitch of just like 2 lines of what the hell this movie is, and then hold on to that. You never know when you might come back to that idea, like, you know, months from now or whatnot. And then take those ideas to your friends or the people who you write and go, let's throw around a little. Let's throw those ideas around and see what we get with it. Because everyone has different stories to bring to the table for an idea. And you never know. Some people's ideas trust me, I cannot stress enough when I've talked to someone and when I said this idea, they said, oh, you know what's this would be really interesting, you do this on top of that. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's good. I never thought about that, because everyone has different experiences in life, and them bringing those things to the table and adding that to the flair of the script is important. When it comes to the actual writing of the script itself, once we've got all that together, I believe that should go to a solo writer at that point. Because once you're all the messaging and everyone's kind of brought those ideas together, there's that one person to bring that one voice into the first direction. And then you bring other writers into it after the script is complete to kind of flesh out things, you know? Like, Mike's great as a comedy writer, but, you know, like, Nick can come up with different structure beats that once Mike's done all the comedy stuff in the script, his structure beats might actually add to that, you know, or my buddies out there who are big on horror might add extra levels of horror kind of tension to it that they knew from their horror film experiences, you know, like, but you want to have that one map written by that one screenwriter, and then you kind of pursue into other directions and bring other writers on board. You know, like if you look at the credits of a lot of films, you'll see that there's more than one writer. Well, there's kind of a reason why that happens a lot of times, is that, you know, one script is written and then you bring someone else to flesh it out and add other flair to it and bring other things to that table. Do I agree that's the best process every time? No, but I do agree that it helps to have it helps to have a trusted party to work together to develop a script. And then it's great to have one voice to start that script direction once that happens. That's just my opinion. For me, over time as a producer, I've learned that find the strengths in people that they have and then use those strengths to help your project. I'm not the best writer, but I know some of the great writers out there, and I think they can add something awesome to the table. awesome questions, everybody. And I apologize if I didn't get to yours in this episode, but I promise in future episodes or on Twitter or in the comments, I will definitely get back to you or respond. So keep them coming. And make sure to follow me at Mike Aransky on Twitter for all the future updates in the film. And obviously, if you have other questions, hit me up there. And make sure to subscribe as we continue on this adventure of making a movie and getting confidence and, I don't know, and just doing something. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. So anyway, and until next time, I'm Mike, and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.